Hank should never heal while charging his attack. Let me explain. Hank is a control-oriented tank who relies on both holding position and pushing people out of it. Similarly to Jackie, but designed to do it way better, I would say. Hank does his role pretty well, but struggles to do so reliably. Let's take a look as to why. Hank's main gimmick is his main attack charging up to deal massive damage in an area, even hitting enemies through walls. It takes a while to charge, but doing so allows Hank to deal massive damage in an area. This is great for controlling key areas on the map, such as choke points or hot zones, because any player with more than 2 brain cells will stay away from your balloon when it's fully charged. The downside to all of this is Hank's need to constantly charge his balloons in order to maintain steady pressure. Because charging his attack is considered him unloading his attack, he is unable to heal while doing so and is also revealed in grass. His short range and low DPS leaves him super vulnerable to crowd control and aggression, but luckily for Hank, his super helps him deal with the latter. His super shoots 6 torpedoes out around him, similarly to Spike's main attack. You could potentially hit all 6, which is enough to kill every brawler in the game, including Frank, but you're more than likely only going to hit 2 or 3, which is still a decent amount of damage, enough to kill about half of the roster. Other than defending yourself, there's not many other uses for his super, which is honestly fine. Hank doesn't need to be the most versatile brawler as long as he fulfills his role well. Maybe you could snipe someone with it, but it's not very likely you hit it. As for his star powers and gadgets, they're alright. Just a shield when near walls and a speed boost for his star powers, and a slow on the next attack as well as another shield for his gadgets. Now on paper, Hank is pretty strong mechanically. However, the drawbacks of his main attack have left many players to believe he is a weak option in pretty much every situation. If we take a look at how he's intended to be played, it's very easy to see why. Being a tank, Hank needs to sacrifice HP to push up the map for positioning. Because of this, when he finally gets into position, he usually has about half of his HP to hold position. Now, he either has to try and hold while constantly zoning with his main attack, or retreat and heal. This makes Hank super weak to aggression and crowd control. If he's not constantly charging his attack, he's an easy target. On top of that, Hank also has to worry about his mini counters that could push him out of cover or even prevent him from pushing up at all. Shelly, Spike, Tara, and a lot more can really mess him up because they all have ways of doing just that. I know this sounds bad, but hear me out. Hank has very clear strengths and weaknesses, allowing for very fun counterplay and strategy. Even the brawlers I just mentioned that counter him, he can still win if he plays around walls. One way to cover his weakness of needing to sacrifice HP could be adding a healer to your team comp, allowing Hank to be more active rather than spending half the match trying to heal. But if you insist on using him alone, then you can always jump from cover to cover to preserve more of your HP. Both of these tactics are very practical strategies, but of course, you want to remove that so he can heal while charging his attack. Now, I can kind of get why you would want Hank to be able to heal and charge simultaneously, but it would absolutely break him. Hank's whole dynamic of needing to sacrifice HP to push up the map completely goes away. He'll be able to constantly apply pressure without needing to stop in order to heal, making him even more oppressive than he can already be. This would also make it much harder for other brawlers such as Buzz, Fang, or even Sam to find openings to take him down. His super already covers his weakness of getting rushed with its potential to deal 15,000 damage to anyone diving on him. He doesn't need to apply such constant pressure to maintain good positioning. Unless he gets pinched or pushed out by a thrower, Hank will likely never need to retreat once he gets settled behind a wall. This would also diminish a lot of his strategic depth. Hank would no longer need to worry about his soft counters like Squeak or Mr. P, because he can just stay behind walls and ignore their chip damage during a 1v1. Because of all these things put together, Hank would be more reliable on his own, meaning team synergies are now just a suggestion. His only real weaknesses would be throwers, some tanks, some controllers, and a few other brawlers, which is fine, but the list is much shorter than it sounds. Now, I know my opinion on this matter isn't very popular considering I share the same opinion as the actual developers of the game, but I think I can sway you. I can't just make claims without looking at the other side of the argument, so I'll go over some potential reasons as to why allowing him to heal and attack could be good. One argument I've heard in favor of Hank healing is that in lower ranks, players rarely heal and just YOLO like bots. Healing rather than dying is important, and having to wait an eternity to heal and then having to wait a second eternity to attack makes Hank quite useless. Adding a healer to your comp would allow you to not have to worry about keeping your health up. Pairing Hank with a brawler like Byron or Poco would allow him to continuously apply pressure, but because both Hank and Poco are weak to aggression more so than Hank, he would also have to worry about keeping them safe while doing so. As long as they cover each other's weaknesses, both will do fine. I recently pushed Hank to a minuscule 800 trophies from like 730, and playing with a healer makes him so much more reliable, especially in control-based modes like Hot Zone or Gem Grab. There are lots of synergies you could use to make Hank even better than he already is. Ruffs and 8-Bit could buff his damage to make him even more of a threat, so he doesn't have to heal as much. Max and Gus could make pushing up the map even easier for him. You could even use him to complement other brawlers instead of the other way around. When you are able to squeeze out an attack, you can use it to push enemies into, say, a Jean or Tara pool, for instance. Hank has a lot of synergies that make him strong already, so there's no real reason to make him even better on his own. In fact, even if you do play him on his own, you can still pop off on closed maps like Pinhole Punt or Super Beach without any support. You just gotta use them walls. Another argument I've heard is that Hank is really similar to throwers, so why do they get to apply constant pressure and Hank doesn't? While yes, this may be the case, you have to look at how Hank is designed. He does have a similar role to that of a thrower, but he is designed like a tank. He doesn't falter to aggression the same way throwers do. Because of their lower HP, they need to be able to apply constant pressure, because one slip up and they easily succumb to the likes of Mortis, Fang, or even just someone who manages to dodge every attack and flank them. Hank, however, with his very high HP pool, large AoE, high damaging attack, and his defensive super, doesn't necessarily have to worry about that as much, which is why having the drawback of inconsistent healing is so good. It leaves him simple to counter, just like throwers are, but still allows Hank to deviate from them by having completely different counters, such as other control brawlers like Gale or Lu, instead of assassins. Both are still weak to wall breaking strats, however, so at least they have that in common. I'm sure there are more arguments for allowing him to heal while attacking, but these are the ones that seem the most echoed. Adrian, or the balance guy, as some call him, seems very adamant about not allowing Hank to heal while charging, and not changing Hank's super, which, I'll be honest, I've never really understood why no one likes his super. It's not even hard to hit 2 or 3 missiles, and frankly, it doesn't need to help him in range fights because you wouldn't even be able to charge it in the first place. After thinking about it for a while, I agree, as you can tell from the fact that I made this video in the first place. I honestly think Hank is a fine brawler. Even before his most recent buffs, I thought this. He has a great niche of filling both the role of a tank and a controller, and does both pretty well. Allowing him to heal while charging his attack would just make him way too strong on his own, and insanely OP in actual team play. But what do you think of Hank? If you disagree with my opinion on the matter, let me know in the comments down below. I'm sure you will all have some interesting perspectives of your own. It'll be fun to read the comments and look for people who want Hank to charge and heal. Maybe you could even change my mind. And hey, if you liked the video, cool man. I just want Hank's attack reticle to be more accurate.